The trade war is heating up, and the auto industry is the next target. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Charge It to the Game. And if you're in the market for a car, or if you even own a car, you're going to want to listen to this, because some big things are happening to the auto industry, and they're very much likely to affect you. Tomorrow is what Donald Trump is calling Liberation Day. And tomorrow is when 25% tariffs hit the auto industry. That includes any car where final assembly is not done in the United States. There's also added things where if the parts of the car come from another country than the United States, there will be a tariff on that. So what that means is any car, including cars built here in the United States, is going to get more expensive. Now, nobody's sure how long this is going to last, if they're going to roll it back in a month, if this is going to be something that lasts the entire term. We're not sure. The only thing we can be sure of is on April 3rd, 25% tariffs are going to be imposed on any car imported in the United States. That's your Mercedes, your BMW, your Audi, and even some of your US cars, your Fords, your Chevys. A lot of US manufacturers actually built their cars in Canada and in Mexico. More detail is likely to be provided on these April 3rd when the tariffs are enacted. However, we have some pretty close trade, and almost every American automaker builds cars in Canada and Mexico, meaning there's likely to be some sort of leeway with these two countries or some sort of agreement to be made, which we'll find out on the 3rd. But almost every US manufacturer builds cars in these other countries, and most of those parts actually do come from the United States. So it will be pretty backwards for the administration to impose the same 25% tariffs on these vehicles where most of the parts actually do come from the US. Manufacturers that import cars under the United States, Canada, Mexico agreement will have to prove the contents of their car and show how much of the car, how many parts in the car are made in America, and this will drastically change the amount of the tariff that's imposed on those cars. For example, if a Chevy is made in Canada, but 75% of the parts are made in the US, they'll likely see a significantly lower tariff than a car like Porsche, where 100% of the parts and a car is built outside of the country. The parts included in this tariff are engines, transmissions, powertrain parts, and electrical components, with other parts likely having tariffs imposed on them later. What does this mean in the long term? What does this mean in the short term? And how can you protect yourself? With these tariffs, all new cars are probably going to have price increases. These price increases, they're going to affect the consumer. These manufacturers aren't just going to eat these added costs. They're going to fall back down onto us, the buyers, the drivers, and the people actually in the US buying these cars. The goal with the tariffs obviously is to try to get manufacturing of parts and vehicles back into the US, but definitely a lot of short-term implications and short-term pain on these that the buyers will endure. Things like auto parts are also going to have a 25% tariff imposed on them. So this means that if you already own a car, so you don't need to buy a car, you already got a car.
You're like, Morgan, this doesn't matter. This doesn't affect me. I already have my car. I'm good. I don't need another car.
Well, if you need to get your car fixed, likely the parts for your car are not made in the US. They're made somewhere where manufacturing's cheaper. So that part's going to have a 25% tariff on it, making it more expensive for you to buy to fix your current car. Not only are parts going to be more expensive, but insurance is going to be more expensive. If all the costs of parts and cars go up, then the cost for your insurance company to total out your car is going to go up. The cost for your insurance company to fix your car if you get into a little fender bender is going to go up. And what does that mean? That means insurance companies are also going to raise their prices. So we're getting hit on both ends. The cost of vehicles is going to go up, the cost of parts is going to go up, and the cost of fix and insurance is going to go up. So in the short term, these tariffs are pretty bad for the everyday American, for the normal consumer. With these tariffs on all new cars, that means that the used cars, they're already here, they're already paid for, they're already imported, so the governments can't charge that tariff on those cars. However, if new cars get more expensive, that's going to make demand for used cars go up. And we saw what happened in 2020 when the demand for used cars went up. Car prices went crazy. And that's likely to happen here again if these tariffs last a long time. People are not going to be able to afford new cars. They're going to have to buy used cars, and that's going to send the used car prices skyrocketing. We're already seeing several automakers respond to these tariffs in the forms of announced price increases, maybe even some models being discontinued just because they're too expensive to make and import, and or they're not profitable to sell with this added tariff on the parts of the vehicle. So what can you do if you're in the market for a car? First thing you need to do is do your research, and don't FOMO buy, don't panic buy. Don't just rush out and buy something because these tariffs are going to hit, because nobody knows how long they're going to last. These could last 2 weeks, and the administration could come to an agreement with countries, and it was all just a big scare where a lot of people may have spent a little bit more on a car because they were worried, and prices ended up coming back down to where they were before. These also could last 3 years, right? People are not waiting around to see what's going to happen with these tariffs before they're buying their car. There was a 19% increase in auto sales in the month of March, with people rushing to dealerships to buy a car before these tariffs take effect. All existing cars in inventory on lots have not been affected and will not be affected by these tariffs. It'll only be new cars being imported after the date the tariffs take effect. So think about all the people who are going to order a car from dealerships. Now they know that any new car they order is going to have this tariff applied. They're going to go look for a used version of this car. This is going to send demand and prices for all newer used vehicles up. Any 1, 2, and 3-year-old vehicle is likely going to have a pretty significant price increase, and the dealerships know it. I've seen multiple dealerships raising prices immediately once these tariffs were announced. What's interesting is Donald Trump's goal is to get car manufacturing back in the US, mainly for the US automakers, but for any automaker that sells cars in the US. We've seen Hyundai recently announce a multi-billion-dollar project to build factories here in the US. So it'll be interesting to see if they offer some sort of discount on tariffs or exemption on tariffs for automakers who pledge to build factories in the US and start building cars in the US. This is important because factories also can't be built in a month, in 5 months, in 10 months. It usually takes at least 3 years for these automakers to build these giant factories where they make cars. So this is not something that will be able to be done quickly. Manufacturing can't be moved from other countries back into the US quickly. It's going to take time. So hopefully these tariffs don't last until these factories get built, but anything could happen. This 25% tariff is a significant thing about to hit the auto industry and hit consumers. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'll keep my eye out and let you guys know what I see as things develop. I'm grateful I got my car in December. You know, I lease a Hyundai Ioniq 5 that I got for a really great deal. It'll be interesting to see if they're still going to give great incentives on EVs with this change, as EVs are some of the most expensive vehicles to produce. Will the tariff go on the original MSRP of the car? Will the tariff go on the final price the car is sold at? We don't know, and these are all specifics that haven't been announced yet. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and make sure you come back to Charge It to the Game to learn more about whatever is going on in this crazy economy of ours.